And welcome to the 2022 NFL Draft's first night recap, recapping the first round of the 2022 NFL Draft. And of course, Ryan Thomas here behind the microphone. You see the shared screen on the visual side of things, so that if you're tuning in on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast on Facebook, if you're tuning in on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast YouTube channel, you can get a great visual there of the first round of the tonight, the 2022 NFL Draft. I'll start off recapping each pick by pick, with the first overall draft choice. The Jacksonville Jaguars select Travon Walker out of Georgia, which, yes, did come as a shock to me. I did anticipate that Aiden Hutchinson would be the pick there. The Detroit Lions are able to draft Aiden Hutchinson, able to keep him, essentially, as a Michigan Wolverine. He plays for the Motor City Football Club now, the Detroit Lions. That was a really cool story that I didn't anticipate happening. I thought Aiden Hutchinson was a cinch, first lock, first overall, a lockdown first overall pick. The Houston Texans, with the third overall selection, they took the first corner in this draft, of course. Derek Stingley Jr., which I was quite shocked by that. I did anticipate Ahmad Gardner would be the first corner off the board, not Derek Stingley, in my mock draft today. Earlier today, I did have Derek Stingley Jr. falling a little bit. It's not necessarily due to his lack of talent or anything like that. Physically, he checks off so many boxes, but Derek Stingley has been a player at LSU these last couple years that hasn't really been able to stay healthy. And I was quite shocked that the Houston Texans did select him third overall, but fourth overall selection, I didn't have to wait too much longer for a player that I regard as one of the better players in this draft, Ahmad Gardner, being selected from the Cincinnati Bearcats by the New York Jets. This was a huge need for the Jets. I talked about it in the mock draft episode earlier today. The Jets have a huge need at corner, and Ahmad Gardner filled that need for them and then some. I'd say he's their number one corner right out of the gate here. The Jets are just such a young team. They've undergone such a huge youth movement since Robert Saleh was brought in. And this rebuild, retool, whatever you want to call it, continues. Fifth overall selection, the New York Giants select Kayvon Thibodeaux, defensive end out of Oregon. So 3 out of the first 5 draft choices in this draft are pass rushers. The Carolina Panthers select Ikem Ekwonu, who can play any which position on the offensive line. A really nice draft choice for the Panthers. I do suspect the Panthers to put Ekwonu, though, at right tackle. The New York Giants, back again, picking from 5th to 7th. Neither one of those picks was traded away in this draft. The Giants made both selections there at 5 and 7, getting 2 top 10 players, with Kayvon Thibodeaux, defensive end at Oregon, at 5th overall, and then the 7th pick, Evan Neal. So my gist of the strategy there for the New York Giants is that they did go with the whole concept of, we're going to draft for both sides of the ball. We're going to control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football, offensively, defensively. You see the Giants with the pick of Kayvon Thibodeaux and then Evan Neal. Going to that whole concept, I feel like the biggest storyline for the Giants heading into the draft was that they do not have any interest in, I guess you could say, accepting the option on Daniel Jones. They decline it. So the quarterback situation with the Giants is Daniel Jones. Tyrod Taylor is in the building there now in East Rutherford, New Jersey, for the Giants, that is. Not necessarily for the Jets, of course. And you got 2 guys that I think will be difference makers. I really like what the Giants did with those selections of Kayvon Thibodeaux. If you were to go back a calendar year, you would say that Thibodeaux would probably be one of the top 3 picks in the draft, but he falls to 5 to the New York Giants. The Atlanta Falcons take a player that I predicted that they would take in this draft and in my mock draft. 8th overall, the Falcons select Drake London out of USC. He's a big body target receiver. He's a guy that can catch over the middle of the field. He can run any which route. A receiver that I think is very comparable to, I guess, a hybrid of one Julio Jones and Roddy White, formerly, of course, of the Atlanta Falcons. They don't have the quarterback situation locked down, locked tight with Matt Ryan there. He's not there anymore. Marcus Mariota is the quarterback, so you got to put pieces around Mariota while he is there, and they're in this state of transition. The Seattle Seahawks, they select Charles Cross, the offensive tackle out of Mississippi State. The New York Jets then used their second first-round draft choice to select Garrett Wilson out of the Ohio State. The New Orleans Saints select Chris Olave out of the Ohio State. Two receivers out of the Ohio State going back-to-back in this draft. And then, of course, the Detroit Lions make a move from 32 to 12, acquiring the 12th overall selection from the Minnesota Vikings. In exchange, what they would get for it, I'll talk about that a little bit later, but Jameson Williams is who Detroit would then draft with the 12th overall selection. So Detroit coming out of this one so far with Aiden Hutchinson at second overall, and then trading back into the top 15 at 12th overall to get Jameson Williams. The Philadelphia Eagles, they take Jordan Davis, who's a player that I really like in this draft. I will say this. In terms of this trade, which saw the Detroit Lions move up to the 12th overall pick and leapfrog the Philadelphia Eagles, I thought Jameson Williams was a real big priority of the Philadelphia Eagles. Everything I had heard alluded to that. And the Detroit Lions leapfrog the Eagles, take Jameson Williams away from the Eagles, and I think the Eagles were left feeling like, okay, we're not going to take Jahan Dotson. We're not going to take Treylon Burks, receivers that did eventually go within the next few picks here, as you guys can see. Treylon Burks going to Tennessee and Dotson going to the Commanders. So I feel like this was a little bit of gamesmanship there by the Detroit Lions to leapfrog the Philadelphia Eagles. Dare I say it, I think the Lions might have actually been pretty savvy this draft in comparison to years past. The Baltimore Ravens select Kyle Hamilton, safety out of Notre Dame, one of my favorite players in this draft class. The Houston Texans then use their second first overall draft choice, moving down a little bit there to take Kenyon Green out of Texas A&M. As I mentioned, the Commanders taking Jahan Dotson, a wide receiver out of Penn State, somebody that I do believe will make Carson Wentz better. Los Angeles Chargers, on the clock, they select Zion Johnson. Tennessee Titans trading away A.J. Brown to the Philadelphia Eagles. Massive curveball thrown to all of us tuning in to the draft tonight. I did not anticipate that. I also didn't anticipate Hollywood Brown being traded from the Ravens to the Arizona Cardinals. That is very interesting because you have DeAndre Hopkins, you have Hollywood Brown, and you have Kyler Murray. That's a fearsome trio right there in Arizona, not including some of the guys that they have on defense. More on that later, but just a sidebar there that kind of just popped into my head. Tennessee Titans trading A.J. Brown, though, to the Philadelphia Eagles. They take Treylon Burks, 18th overall. 19th overall, the New Orleans Saints take Trevor Penning. And one pick later, I think one of the most feel-good moments of this draft so far is the selection by the Pittsburgh Steelers, taking Kenny Pickett, quarterback out of Pitt. I look at Kenny Pickett out of Pitt, and I say to myself, this is a guy that I do believe can be a rock-steady backup for the next 2 years because he has an opportunity to learn behind one Mitchell Trubisky. And you look at the tape, you watch Kenny Pickett, and you say to yourself, I think this guy's got it. I think he's got the capability just based on his ability to run with the football, throw on the run, extend plays. He's extremely accurate. Really, the situation with him was his hand size. And I think the hand size thing, very silly, but hey, whatever. It is what it is. Kenny Pickett, feel-good moment of the draft, no doubt about it. The Kansas City Chiefs acquired the 21st overall selection from the New England Patriots. They take Trent McDuffie, who is a guy that I believed Buffalo was very high on. Everything I had read, everything I had heard, Trent McDuffie was on the list. Kansas City bumps past Buffalo at 25 at that time. to move up and take Trent McDuffie. Thanks a lot, New England, you jerks. Green Bay, they take Quay Walker, linebacker out of Georgia. Another Georgia player that Green Bay would then take would be Devontae Wyatt a little bit later. First team to ever take two players from the same school on the same side of the ball in the first round of any NFL draft. I thought that was pretty notable, pretty historic in its own right. The Buffalo Bills select Kaiir Elam, cornerback out of Florida. This was a pick that was traded to them from Baltimore, being that Buffalo moved up from 25 to 23, and in doing so, they traded away the 130th overall selection in this draft. What are my thoughts on Kaiir Elam? I looked at every corner in this draft, from top to bottom. Sauce Gardner, Derek Stingley, Kaiir Elam, Andrew Booth, you name it. Kaiir Elam, I would say, in terms of how I evaluated him, I said to myself, he is the most McDermott-esque corner that you could draft. He tackles well. He has a tenacious nose for the football, and I would definitely say he has the takeaway ability. Looking at Kaiir Elam as a player from 2020 to 2021, in 2020 he was very dominant as a corner. In 2021 he had a little bit of a down year in comparison to the previous season. And I know Brandon Beane touched on that tonight when speaking to the media, and I think that was great to touch on it. And the fact that, he didn't have as good a year last year as he did the year before, but with Sean McDermott's tutelage, look what he has done with some of these guys in the secondary that were even undrafted. Levi Wallace being one of them. Levi Wallace, an undrafted free agent, turns him into a CB2, and Levi Wallace goes and makes some money from the Pittsburgh Steelers, which leaves this vacancy open for Buffalo to then take a corner like Kaiir Elam out of Florida. One of my favorite Gators on the team these last few years. I really like the pick, and I really feel it fills a huge hole on this defense, due in large part to the fact that, one, you don't know which version of Trey White you're getting when he comes back, and two, you can never have too many corners in this version of the National Football League. 24th overall, the Dallas Cowboys select Tyler Smith, offensive tackle out of Tulsa. 25th overall, the Ravens select Tyler Linderbaum, who is one of my favorite players in this draft, a center that loves to throw people around like ragdolls. The New York Jets, they move back into the first round of the NFL draft this season with the third first round selection of the New York Jets, and that is Jermaine Johnson II. And dare I say it, New York Jets had a better draft than just about anybody in the draft. Dare I say it. The Jacksonville Jaguars, Devin Lloyd, another pick there for Jacksonville. The Green Bay Packers, Devontae Wyatt. They do not take the receiver. Once again, another year where the Packers do not take a skill position in the first round. The New England Patriots take Cole Strange, an offensive guard out of Chattanooga. Kansas City Chiefs take George Karlaftis. The Cincinnati Bengals take Daxton Hill, who I was stunned was still on the board. And to bookend the first round of the 2022 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Lewis Klein out of Georgia. So many guys from Georgia. I can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 first-round picks out of Georgia. I believe they were all defensive players. My memory serves me right. Legendary stuff from the Georgia Bulldogs defense this past season in the BCS National Championship run, and it paid off in terms of these guys making an impact great enough to catch the attention of the NFL Draft, being the stars of the NFL Draft thus far. 5 players from Georgia taken in the first round. So that is my 2022 NFL Draft first round recap. A lot to discuss in terms of how I see these picks playing themselves out in terms of the future. Stay tuned for all things NFL Draft right here on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. You can check out my show weekly on the Buffalo Fanbase Podcast Network. Second round starts tomorrow night, 7 p.m. I'll see you then.